I'm entering my 70th year, and I am so in the rabbit hole. I take no medications. I have no illnesses. I don't even take any other supplements. This is my own hair. There's no extensions. This is my own teeth. I take nothing except I think the is the best hack, period. There's 100,000 studies proving the science, and it's effortless and has all the nutrients that you are missing for that optimal energy, life, wellness, brain health, everything. It's proven to kill cancer cells, and you no longer have it after the age of 40. That's when metabolic health issues, brain fog, weight gain, heart attacks, cancer, all of this escalates after 40. And then by the time you're 40, you have even less of it. And by 50, you have none of it. Without it, you're basically dead.
Catharine Arnston is a globally recognized biohacker and nutrition strategist. With decades of experience in longevity and cellular health, she has helped countless individuals optimize energy, vitality, and overall well-being. Her pioneering work in anti-aging and mitochondrial health is transforming how we approach human performance and rewriting the rules of what the human body can do.
I taught myself most of what I know just by going deep into PubMed, because I am determined to find out how we can make aging easier for people. It shouldn't be so difficult. It shouldn't be so expensive. It shouldn't be so complicated. It shouldn't be so reliant on the medical profession. And I know I'll probably sound like a crazy woman, but I'm convinced it is the answer.
You're listening to The Human Upgrade with Dave Asprey. This is a special episode of The Human Upgrade because we're celebrating a birthday. Our guest today, second time on the show, is entering her 70th year, and this is the big day. So Catharine Arnston, recent PhD graduate. Congratulations.
Thank you so much, Dave.
She's coming on the show to talk about mitochondrial biology. And you could say, oh my gosh, that sounds a little bit boring. Except it's not, because we're going to be hacking mitochondria, and there's a lot of really cool pathways and support factors. So if you want to live for a very long time and you take care of your mitochondria, you do that in your 20s, and it's really easy and cheap. And you do it in your 40s or 50s, and since pretty much everyone over age 40-ish, 50-ish has mitochondrial dysfunction, it's just a hallmark of aging, but it's optional. And if you're, I don't know, like in your 60s or early 70s, and you want to look amazing and have a brain that gets a PhD and just totally super smart, listen to Catharine and what she's going to teach us on the episode today, because she's a walking testament to what happens when you take care of your mitochondria. Now, I asked you back on the show because your last interview just went viral because you're dropping all this knowledge, and I think you see mitochondria in a different way. And you know, I'm sometimes, every time I see it, I'm like, why is she not green like Swamp Thing? Because you are so into algae, because not just any algae, but the specific forms. There's two kinds that you focus on, and you've done such deep research that I want to make this a masterclass on how mitochondria work, how they break, and then what are the things you can do, including the components that are in Spirulina and Chlorella, and why they work and where they work, so people really understand I must take care of my mitochondria.
Absolutely.
And it's about performing better now, and it's about looking better over time and not getting all the degenerative diseases and things like that.
Right. Because aging is natural, declining is not. We've assumed that it is. And I'm an example of the fact that it's not. I take no medications. I have no illnesses. I don't even take any other supplements. I do the things that really Mother Nature has provided for us. Things like algae and sleep and sunlight and movement and water. And so it's also...
You must use some kind of serum. Like your face is just...
Well, I just put it... I've used the same cream for the last 40 years. Nothing.
Wow. Okay.
I will say, a shout out to a fellow colleague. I started using the Alitera Gold Serum on my skin a couple of years ago, but it was looking great before then. But
you're just doing amazingly well.
It's because I'm nourished from the inside. Your skin is nourished by your blood and your just like all the other parts of your body. Okay. Your skin is an organ. It's it's the largest and very visible organ. But all of your organs need to be nourished, including your skin. And I attribute my skin health mostly to the fact that I take Spirulina and Chlorella every day.
You take some collagen too, I'm guessing?
Nope.
No?
Nothing.
Wow. So you're all about getting your protein, aminos, minerals straight from algae.
I take nothing except spirulina and chlorella.
No fish oil, no nothing.
No fish oil. Oh, I can't. Yeah, fish oil. I was repeating. No fish oil ever, ever, ever. The only thing I will take is when I'm traveling, I'll take a little extra magnesium, and I'll take a little bit of vitamin C because I don't eat a lot of fruit. But nothing else.
Let's talk about what's happening in mitochondria. And I'm very interested in hydrogen peroxide. Because when we talk about things like gray hair and aging, hydrogen peroxide forms in cells. Walk me through what hydrogen peroxide does in the body, why it's there, and what we do about it.
Okay. So I'll go a little higher level to start off with for anyone who's not quite familiar with mitochondria. They are what generate cellular energy known as ATP. And the best analogy I've come up with is, in a building, you can't do any work without any lights. If you have a power outage or your light bulbs go out, you're kind of stuck. So you call maintenance and they come and turn the electricity back on. And the mitochondria are not just the light bulbs. They are also the electricity. So they are twofold more important than what's in your building. Now, the maintenance people that will turn your mitochondria back on are actually an antioxidant called superoxide dismutase. And normally your maintenance people are there from the moment you're born because your body makes this stuff called superoxide dismutase, also known as SOD, just like it makes melatonin, just like it makes hormones. It's a natural product until about the age of 30. And then like a lot of things, hormones, melatonin, it starts to drop. And then by the time you're 40, you have even less of it. And by 50, you have none of it. And what superoxide dismutase does is it takes the free radicals that are produced as a byproduct of this ATP, because and we're going to go through how the ATP is actually produced because it's in something called the electron transport chain. But when you have to have ATP, because without ATP, you're basically dead. So
you have about 6 seconds of supply in the body.
Yeah. And so your body can't store ATP. So whenever it's made, it's used at the moment. So you need ATP, but a byproduct are these things called free radicals. And the free radical that is produced in the mitochondria is called superoxide. And it's very damaging. Now, normally an antioxidant would neutralize a free radical, but most antioxidants cannot get into the mitochondria because the mitochondria have a second inner membrane that doesn't have these things called porins that are required for antioxidants to get in. There are some antioxidants that can get in, including glutathione, chlorophyll, and also this one called superoxide dismutase, because dismutase means to dismantle. Okay. So you've got these free radicals called superoxide that are being thrown off as a byproduct of the cell production, ATP.
Okay, let me play this back. So as you're making heat or electricity, your mitochondria doing their daily thing, they're throwing off SO or superoxide. And if things are working right and you're young, then the body also makes SOD, which turns off the SO. So as long as that's in balance, you're young and powerful and you feel good.
Right.
And then your body makes less and less of the thing that turns it off, which is why we get gray hair. We get all these diseases of aging. It's not the only cause of aging, to be clear, but it's a major thing.
Right.
And it's that drop off over time.
Right.
Okay.
And you're right about it. I'm not sure if turning it off is the words I would use, but they're good. Yeah. They help people understand. What it does is it neutralizes it, and it converts it, and we'll get into this in greater detail in a minute. It converts it to oxygen and water, which are harmless. So
it's actually beneficial. You want cell hydration? Okay, good.
Yeah, because it's a closed loop. I mean, Mother Nature creating us and creating algae and the nutrients in algae, it's a closed loop. And as you start to understand how this all works, you go, oh my God, that's unbelievable. Because we are a fine piece of equipment, and every concept, every piece that needs to be co-factored in is in there in your body if you give it what it needs. So we have this stuff called superoxide, and the way I describe it is it acts like a big golf umbrella. You've seen those big golf umbrellas, whether you're golfing or shopping. You get stuck in a rainstorm, you pop that baby up, you're protected. You haven't stopped the rain, but you stopped getting wet. Superoxide dismutase is similar. It doesn't stop the rain of free radicals. They're a natural byproduct of ATP.
If you stop them, you're dead.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But it converts them into harmless water and oxygen. So it's like providing your mitochondria with a big golf umbrella so they're not damaged. Yay! So everything's easy peasy, working fine until you're 30, and then boom.
Why
the lights
30?
go off.
What happens at 30?
So here's the cool, and I was curious about this too. Why does everything start falling apart at 30? Well, we have been on Earth for 2 million years. And
Billion. Or you mean humans or life?
Humans have been on Earth for 2 million years. And evolutionarily, up until a couple hundred years ago, we died at 30. Our bodies are programmed to die at 30.
You mean Mother Nature wants us to die to get out of the way for the next generation?
Pretty much. Well,
she's mean.
Yeah. Well, I know. Well, she didn't know we were going to live longer. She didn't know there was biohacking. She didn't know there was electricity and all these things. So in the last couple of hundred years, we have been living longer, way past 30. But our body is preparing us after 30 for death. That's why for women, our estrogen drops. This is why melatonin starts dropping. It doesn't think we're going to need any sleep if we're dead. So our bodies are evolutionary programmed to die at 30. And Mother Nature always looks for the best value. And why would it want our bodies to be making all this stuff? It doesn't think we're going to be alive. So at 30, so we have no choice. You will not be able to change this. Our evolutionary, we are programmed to die at 30.
I'm going to change it. I'm going to change my
Well, I was going to say you and all these other things that will improve our lifespan and health span, like red light and algae for one of them, will help us get through. So the good news is we can defy our biology. We absolutely can. But like I tell people, you need to know the recipe. I mean, I don't cook very much. So when I go in the kitchen, I need a recipe and I need to know what's going to go into the recipe. So I go in and get my ingredients. And if I follow the recipe, I can do pretty well. My sisters are great cooks in the kitchen. They don't even need a recipe. I need a recipe. Everybody in our world now needs a recipe. They need to know how their body works so they know what to go and find to counteract these evolutionary programs that are built in, because you can defy them. You can create for me a great souffle if I wanted to, if I have the recipe. You can live well and long if you know what to do. And that's why I love what you do, Dave, because you really help people understand what's available to them. Because once you get these things in your system, you're good. You're good. And that's why I want people to understand we're going beyond what you thought algae was, because it has the nutrients that are missing in once you get to 30. And we're going to talk people through that.
Okay. So is it nutrient depletion that happens around 30? We run out of something, or is it some other process?
Well, it's not necessary. We are experiencing nutrient depletion in our lifestyle now, but that's not what's going on. It's just like, you have a timer. When you turn a timer on to do anything, whether you're in the sauna or you're cooking, when the timer is done, in the sauna, it turns the heat off.
So is it like telomeres, or we just don't know what the timer is?
Well, it's programmed into our cell biology, just like skin turnover slows down as you get older. Certain animals, the leaves turn different colors. Well, it's photosynthesis, but
Is it different in men and women?
No, all humans have this programming, but women get hit extra hard because at the same time they're losing this superoxide dismutase, which everybody loses. They're also losing estrogen. And estrogen acts as an antioxidant in the mitochondria.
Yep.
And because your brain has the most mitochondria per cell, 2 million, and I can give you the scientific references for that, people know that depression and Alzheimer's and dementia are more prevalent in women, and that's because women are getting hit harder. Their mitochondria are damaged more frequently than men because of the loss of estrogen. And so because you don't have that protection of the estrogen anymore. So
and
I know we're moving all over the place here, but it's good. Yeah.
It's like, why does it happen and what can we do about it? I think you're living proof that there's something to this.
There's something happening.
Yeah, exactly. Like your brain, you have all this stuff just sitting in your head, and that's pretty unusual.
So you were asking me again about in the cell, the mitochondria, how we have all this hydrogen peroxide. So we'll go back to the electron transport chain where all this activity is occurring, where you get the production of the ATP and the byproduct of the free radicals. And just to help people to understand what this electron transport chain is, it's molecules. There's 4 molecules that are embedded in the inner membrane of the mitochondria. Okay. And the way that the energy is actually created is very similar to what you would see in a relay race. Everyone's seen a relay race where you have the runner and they pass a baton to the next runner who passes it to the next runner and they try to cross the finish line first. Well, in the electron transport chain, instead of runners, you have these protein molecules. And instead of passing a baton, they pass an electron. Okay. So, and instead of crossing the finish line, the goal is to get to this final stage, which is called cytochrome C oxidase, where we'll talk about this because you need oxygen and that's when ATP is produced. So as long as the electrons are passed, like in a race, from one molecule, from one of the proteins, you get ATP. But here's what happens. When you start to have too many free radicals, which occur from a variety of reasons, stress, EMFs, toxins, the electron transport chain, where the molecules are supposed to be close to one another, they cause damage. And so when the mitochondria get damaged, it expands. And when it expands, those runners, the molecule, get further and further and further apart from one another. So 2 things happen. Just like in a relay race, if you can't get up to the next runner, you can't pass the baton. In the electron transport chain, when the molecules are farther apart from one another, they can't pass the electron. So they leak out. They can't make the pass. It's like Tom Brady couldn't make the pass. So 2 things happen. Now you have less energy because the electron couldn't make the disc couldn't make the pass. And those electrons don't just disappear. They turn into free radicals, which damages the mitochondria even more, which causes the expansion even more, which reduces the ATP even more. Then eventually the mitochondria explodes. It's called necrosis. And all those free radicals, all of the stuff that was in there spreads to the next mitochondria, spreads to the next cell. This is why you have accelerated aging. This is how you get chronic disease. Wow. And it's all because the mitochondria, the electron transport chain, it starts to expand. They can't close the loop to get the electron across. Doesn't disappear. Free radicals, free radicals, free radicals.
You've got a couple really important points in there. When mitochondria die or fragment, mitochondrial fragments and extracellular ATP, which happens as a result of that, well, the other mitochondria, they're all a community.
Oh, I know. I say, hey, what's going over there, bro? Yeah. Hey, don't spread your stuff over here, but it does.
Yeah, and it would be like if we're driving down the expressway and like a human leg hits your windshield. You're like, like what is going on? From a mitochondria perspective, like a piece of another one of us just hit me in the forehead. And it's not a good thing.
It's not a good thing.
It creates cellular stress, and then all the other mitochondria, instead of focusing on energy production, they're going to go into an inflammatory state. And there's evidence that supports this.
Yeah.
So you realize I'm managing a community of hundreds of billions of ancient bacteria floating around inside the body, and they're all talking to each other long before I get to think about it.
Yeah, exactly.
So that fragmentation is we don't talk about it enough in biohacking and aging. Get this, if you're over 30, you've already lost about 50% of your stem cells. That means that half your body's repair crew is gone. Even with a dialed-in biohacking routine, if you're not addressing your stem cell decline, you're missing a key piece of what keeps you young and powerful. And your body knows how to repair itself, but as you age, it stops sending in the workers, your stem cells, the things that get the job done. And that's where StemRegen comes in. It's a supplement that signals your body to release up to 10 million of your own stem cells into your bloodstream directly. It also improves circulation, so those cells go to where you need them most, like your heart, your muscles, your skin, everywhere. And you'll notice faster recovery, more energy, and real changes that last for a long time. So you want to keep your body young or just more powerful? Go to stemregen.co/Dave25 and use code Dave25. They'll give you 25% off your whole order. And the other thing that you talk about, which no one talks about, is the effect of the size of the cell. So the swelling of cells, something happens when you fly or things like that. And this isn't just like you're getting muffin top, which can just be water outside of cells. This is the cell itself expanding.
Right.
So mitochondria is making electricity. We have this electron transport chain. I view it as a wire. and it works right. It's just carrying electricity.
Exactly.
But when the insulation on the wire frays, it's like you've got this cord in your bathroom.
It's like having shocks, electrical.
Yeah. And now like there's leaks. So now the electricity is getting out in the water on the floor, but it's not getting to your hairdryer.
Right.
So we have these leaks, and those leaks are causing problems.
It's like fire.
Yeah. And every leak creates more fraying of the insulation on this. It's not really a wire, but you can visualize it that way. So we have this double problem.
Yeah.
One is, we're losing electrons, but
and you're losing energy.
We're losing energy, but there's something else that comes out of my time as a computer hacker, network engineer. So it's not like the electron just moves like slowly from one to the other. Electrons bounce.
Yeah.
They go back and forth millions of times a second. So you're thinking, okay, my mitochondria was this big, and it's only 10% bigger. But 10% bigger times a million vibrations back and forth, that actually adds huge amounts of what we call latency. So gamers know what I'm talking about, right? So if your bandwidth has low latency, it gets there quickly. You can have high bandwidth and you can have high latency, and it just takes forever and your calls are jittery. And that's because of that lag time. Yeah. So cell swelling equals lag time in mitochondria, and a small amount of swelling is a huge decrease in efficiency of the system. And what did we say at the beginning? In aging, 48% of people under age 40 have early onset mitochondrial insufficiency. That is it. It's mitochondrial fragmentation and swelling of mitochondria.
100% over the age of 40 have mitochondrial dysfunction.
And then we get this swelling, get the free radical production.
Right.
And what you're saying is you can use algae, you use ENERGYbits in order to manage that insulation on the wire so that you repair it. And if some electrons leak, they don't do any damage. And over time, the body has enough energy to fix them.
Yeah.
Okay. What are the components of algae that do that?
So the most important one is this antioxidant called superoxide dismutase, which is the one that would, when you have all that excess free radicals, normally before the age of 30 says, there's too many free radicals here, but we're covered because we're going to convert them into oxygen and water. Although there's an intermediary stage where it's converted into hydrogen peroxide. So you've got the superoxide dismutase taking the free radical, the superoxide, which is very damaging, converts it into oxygen and hydrogen peroxide, and then there's another step. The hydrogen peroxide needs glutathione to then be converted to H2O. So now you have this very damaging free radical converted ultimately to oxygen and water because of the superoxide dismutase. Problem solved. So it's like having that big golf umbrella up. And I mentioned the glutathione because glutathione is a master antioxidant. And in other parts of your cells, you could use catalase to convert the hydrogen peroxide into water. But no mitochondria have catalase except the liver and your heart. So the vast majority of your mitochondria rely on glutathione to convert that hydrogen peroxide into water. And algae has the highest concentration of it.
So algae's got the highest concentration. And some people have heard of catalase because the formulas you can buy for topical hair use to reverse graying usually have catalase in them, or sometimes orally, because hydrogen peroxide is a part of this. So it sounds complex, but it's not that it's not that hard to understand if you think about it. Okay, you have these leaking electrons. Those are free radicals. And the body says, oh no, I need SOD. So it makes SOD. And the SOD turns it into peroxide, which unfortunately is also pro-oxidant.
Not as bad, but still pro-oxidant. Yeah. Yep.
And then you need glutathione for that step.
To bring it, to neutralize it even further to oxygen. Okay. But it's even more complicated. And this is why nature and the body are just so fascinating to me. I've turned into a total geek late in my life, and I am so in the rabbit hole. And I want to help other people understand the outcome of my rabbit hole without having to go down there themselves. So here's where it gets even more complicated. So SOD is found in three parts of around the cell. One is outside the cell, one is inside, what's called cytoplasm, and the third one is inside the mitochondria itself.
So are these different types of SOD?
It's one type of SOD, but it has what's called a cofactor, and the cofactor is different in the different areas, and which means it needs this other thing to turn on, to work.
Okay, so tell me the three places the SOD are in the body again.
The extracellular, which is outside the cell, intercellular,
Inside the cell.
Inside the cell and inside the mitochondria.
And they do different things in each location.
Yes.
Okay, that's cool.
Yes. So the one, and they've done tests because the one that's inside the mitochondria requires manganese. The other two require copper and zinc. They've done all these lab tests to find out with mice and whatever, if you reduce the SOD, they're called 1 and 3 that are outside the cell and inside the mice will still live. No real, they're not doing great, but they don't die. You pull out the SOD in the mitochondria that requires the manganese, they die within hours. You cannot live without, and the SOD will not work properly without the manganese. Algae has the highest, is the daily requirement. There's not technically an RDA, but the recommended amount is the amount that's in the algae. In fact, Chlorella has twice the amount. Now, why is the manganese so important? Because if the manganese is not there to be the cofactor with the SOD goes, well, you don't have any manganese. I'm going to grab something else. I'm going to grab iron. It grabs iron, and then it becomes pro-inflammatory. So you need to have manganese with your SOD. Of course, SOD is the highest concentration is in algae. You need manganese, highest concentration in algae. So it will work to reduce the free radical to the hydrogen peroxide, which then needs glutathione, which, by the way, is also in the algae. See how beautiful it is? Mother Nature has put all these components together. So maybe you're taking it for the manganese, but you're also getting the superoxide dismutase. Or maybe you're taking the superoxide, but you're also getting excess protein. Or maybe you're taking it for your skin improvement because it will, has more collagen and protects the elastin because it has K2 that moves excess calcium. It doesn't matter what you do with algae. You may take it for one reason, but it will give you so many other benefits. But that was one I've never really thought of before. So
super cool.
But it is interesting to think because the body's the mitochondria, they're working and they're talking to one another. And if they don't have enough manganese, they're going to, like you said, they're going to grab the iron, which is then going to start rusting you from the inside. And so, you need to have that. Otherwise, you're not going to get the full benefit and you'll just end up with more, you won't get the reduction of the superoxide at all because it becomes pro-inflammatory in its own right.
So in the very beginnings of the biohacking movement, I talked about liposomal glutathione. And as we've just learned from all this research you've done, if we're not talking about SOD and glutathione together, we're missing a part of the puzzle.
Yeah.
And I do think that there's a case for bringing glutathione levels up throughout the body, especially inside your cells. Yeah. And we've had like a really cool interview with Nayan Patel talking about what's happening, how to get it into the cells. And there's two ways to get glutathione into the cells. One is give the cells the building blocks they need. And those building blocks are important, and you can get normal physiological concentrations. And then the other way is to get levels beyond what the body would do with its enzymes, and there can be benefits to that, and that's to bring in exogenous glutathione, like Nayan was talking about. So what you have in algae that's really interesting, though, is there's those 3 aminos that are necessary. What are they?
Glycine, cysteine, and glutamic acid.
And they're all in algae.
Correct. And so they create glutathione. And here's the other interesting thing, Dave. The mitochondria cannot make glutathione. It absolutely needs it to be brought into the cell. And so if it's in the algae, then you're getting the glutathione that you need for that final stage of turning the hydrogen peroxide into oxygen. And we're going to later on tell how important that is in so many ways, both for ATP and for protecting the cell from things like cancer.
And glutathione is such an interesting molecule because if you just eat it, it doesn't work because it gets digested into its 3 amino acids, but then those get absorbed and then it gets rebuilt into glutathione inside the cells.
Right.
And so with algae, with what you've got in ENERGYbits, because they're not heat processed, you've got SOD, you've got that manganese, which you need, and you've got the building blocks of glutathione.
Correct.
So, and they're in the right ratios.
Correct.
And on top of that, you can add in whatever else you want. You could take more manganese if you want to. You could take more SOD, which, like I said, that's not a good idea. Get your SOD from your ENERGYbits.
More if you're taking spirulina or chlorella.
No, you really don't. And then you can also add in glutathione. And if you're drinking some alcohol, you're not going to be able to make enough to protect your liver, so take some glutathione, right?
Right.
But we've all, in the history of biohacking, we've always been like glutathione. And I think that we missed the SOD side because you couldn't really buy it. And you're like, I've got it in my ENERGYbits because I processed them the right way.
Correct.
So there you go. As I mentioned, I used Spirulina and I didn't get any results.
Yeah.
And so I was a Spirulina skeptic until we talked, and you're like, you got to do it right. So what's different in the way that you're making spirulina so that it works?
Okay. ENERGYbits spirulina tablets are different because we do not use high heat in our processing, which allows all of the nutrients to be preserved, particularly this critical one called superoxide dismutase, which will protect your mitochondria. Boom.
Okay, that makes so much sense. So you've eliminated that. Are there other things you're doing in the spirulina that's different?
We also grow it in triple filtered spring mountain water, not the ocean. This is really important because algae will absorb whatever's in the water.
Ew.
So if your water is not clean, whatever's there will get into the algae. Sort of like having a goldfish bowl. If you didn't change your water, poor Goldie's not doing well. So we have no toxins and we preserve all the nutrients. And it's not just superoxide dismutase that's preserved. There's a blue pigment in spirulina called phycocyanin, phycocyanin. This pigment isn't found anywhere else in the universe.
Just by algae.
And it's an antioxidant, and it has powerful properties like it's proven to kill cancer cells. And I can walk you through the pathway. It ejects what's called the cytochrome C molecule, which triggers capases, which triggers apoptosis. And cancer cells cannot go through apoptosis. So this is what's so cool. I call it spirulina intelligent food because you have to be intelligent to take it, and it knows what to do in your body. And just as an example, when you have a healthy cell, the blue pigment in spirulina, called phycocyanin, is a helper cell in the electron transport chain. I didn't mention these earlier. There's two helper cells. One's called CoQ10 and the other one is called cytochrome C. In a healthy cell, the blue pigment in spirulina can detect that it's a healthy cell. And what it does, it speeds up the electrons moving across the electron train. It's like having a Ferrari. Vroom. This is one of the reasons why spirulina gives you energy and Chlorella does not, because it speeds up that cytochrome C molecule, the blue pigment. However, in a senescent cell or a cancer cell, the phycocyanin can detect that. And instead of speeding up the cytochrome C molecule, it ejects it, which triggers something called capases, which triggers this thing called apoptosis, which is cell death. And this is incredible. And chemotherapy companies are using phycocyanin in their cancer treatments because then they can tell if the cancer is being being killed. How? They measure the amount of cytochrome C in your serum, in your blood serum, and if it's there, it knows that's because the cancer cells have been killed. How cool is that? Yes. This pigment knows what to do in your body without any instructions. That's going beyond the call of duty, as far as I'm concerned.
It is, and there's another piece here that you might have gone here in your research or not. I love it that we're talking about phycocyanin. This is another one of those things that just no one talks about it.
I have another one to add on then.
Okay,
maybe you've already got it.
Phycocyanin activates exactly the same things that methylene blue does.
Okay.
But it does it in a way that's much more compatible with the cell.
Yes.
So you could look at taking spirulina, as long as it has all the components intact, so we'll say ENERGYbits. If you're taking that, you're getting some of the benefits of methylene blue. And methylene blue is a double-edged sword. It's kind of like a big hammer. And it's good for many people, but it's not always good all the time.
Yeah.
But phycocyanin, which is bioidentical to what our cells are using, that you can take.
Absolutely.
And so I think there's an argument for those of us who are saying, well, I want to microdose methylene blue. Well, you could just take your spirulina and get phycocyanin that activates the same cytochrome C pathways, which is super cool.
Yeah.
So Chlorella, some of the stuff that I took seemed like it was working better. I would get more clarity, and other times not so much, and I never understood the difference. So what is important in Chlorella processing to make it work?
Chlorella needs to be grown very carefully, even more carefully than spirulina. It actually, when it's growing, you have to start it in a lab, in a small test tube, and then you get to a certain stage, and then it grows to a larger test tube, and then a larger test tube, and then the larger one. Then you plant it outdoors in a small pond, and then a larger pond. It's very complicated. This is why you don't see chlorella being grown anywhere else in the world except in Asia, because it's taken them 40 years to figure out all of these growing techniques.
Wow.
So the company that grows it for us is one of the oldest companies, and they have masterminded this growing technique. So it's very complicated to grow. We do not use high heat to dry the chlorella, which happens with a lot of the other chlorella out there, which deactivates many of the nutrients. High heat will kill and deactivate enzymes and pigments. And of course, chlorella has the highest chlorophyll in the world. Chlorophyll is very important because it builds your blood. The chemical composition of hemoglobin is virtually identical to chlorophyll. The only difference is your hemoglobin has an iron atom in the middle, and chlorophyll has magnesium. Chlorella is called chlorophyll.
And it's a copper that you need as well.
Yes.
It's got magnesium and a copper.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
And the copper is really important for the other SOD, just as a little side note.
Right.
Okay. So you don't damage them with heat, but is there anything else that chlorella needs?
Well, then you have to crack the cell wall, because spirulina does not have a cellulose wall because it's a bacteria.
Okay.
Chlorella has the hardest cellulose wall, which needs to be cracked, because if you don't crack it, your body cannot absorb the nutrients.
It's like eating a walnut still in its shell.
Yes,
Okay.
right, exactly. Great analogy. Now, the FDA requires you to sell cracked cell wall chlorella in America. So I don't believe there's any available in America or North America unless it is cracked. But there are countries in the EU you can get uncracked chlorella. And I would say, well, why would you want to do that? Because your body can't absorb the nutrients. There's one more thing I want to share with you is that there are new growing techniques for both spirulina, but also particularly chlorella, and they grow it in glass tubes with LED lights. It's been called fermented chlorella. Okay. Now, it's probably ultimately the long-term way to grow it, because it's protected because it's no environmental exposure, yada yada yada. But they've found that the cell wall is softer. And if it's softer, it's not going to be able to hold on to the toxins as well as the traditional way of growing it.
Okay, so you reduce environmental stress on it, and it
doesn't have the same efficacy.
It doesn't work as well.
Correct. So we grow ours the traditional way,
in sunlight,
without high heat to dry it, cracking it correctly to preserve all the nutrients, and we make sure it's grown in triple filtered spring mountain water, so no toxins. I mean, you don't want to take chlorella, which is supposed to be pulling out toxins, if it has toxins in it to start with.
That says a lot. I know that your whole ENERGYbits line, you're obsessive about all these things. And I worry a lot about chlorella, because if it's just grown in seawater has more mercury than ever before, and chlorella is a mercury sponge. And the mercury got there because of coal mining. You burn coal, and then you get mercury in the water, and this is why fish is all contaminated with mercury. So if you're getting chlorella that was grown in the ocean, you don't want to do that. Same with spirulina. And the other thing is, whenever you're doing hydroponics, and this will be a little bit sketchy because some people are like, oh, hydroponics are the future. Sunlight is information, and stress on plants makes them stronger. Mm-hmm. So if you want to have good coffee, it needs to have enough stress to make the compounds that are there. And if you have oregano that had no plant stress, it doesn't have any of the antioxidants. So just like our cells, if you stress them enough, they'll make more SOD until they run out of the ability to do that. So what you're saying is that the ENERGYbits chlorella that you have, that it's receiving appropriate environmental stress so that it makes phycocyanin and it makes SOD and it makes the right amount of these things. And then you don't heat it like a lot of brands do, because it costs more to dry it instead of to heat dry it. And then how do you crack it?
It's tumbled.
Okay, got it. So tumbled. Mechanical stuff.
Yeah.
Got it. And then that, you said the dose for the ENERGYbits chlorella is 10 to 30? And yes, at nighttime is best.
Yes, and you can have more than that if you want, but 10 would be enough to replace. If you don't like vegetables and carnivores, I'm talking to you too. You're not getting the chlorophyll that you need. You're not getting the SOD. There's a lot of nutrients that you're missing. Carnivores are great. It's a path that a lot of people follow, and but you're still missing particular nutrients. And so there are no lectins or oxalates in chlorella or spirulina, so you can get all the nutrients you're missing and not move out of your carnivore lifestyle. So we want to be sure people are getting the nutrients they need so that you can age well. We don't want you to just live long. We want you to live well. And this is why I love the spirulina and chlorella so much, the tablet form. It's effortless. There's 100,000 studies proving the science, and it's effortless and has all the nutrients that you are missing for that optimal energy, life, wellness, brain health, everything.
You said something really important at the end there. Before we called it the carnivore diet, I tried it because I was testing the limits of the bulletproof diet recommendations, and I did this for a while, and I did get leaky gut. And at first I felt amazing, but then you don't have some of the nutrients you need. And what I realized is that throughout history, first we had salt trading routes. That's how we got our minerals. And then they became spice trading routes. And that's how we got our plant antioxidants and all these other things that were beneficial. And now we have all this weird recent stuff because we have refrigerators like you have to have a big bowl of rainbow colored greens, which have a ton of plant toxins in them. So what you want to do when you eat plants is get the plants that have the lowest size and the highest ratio of beneficial nutrients and the lowest amount of toxins. And that's usually things like oregano and rosemary and all that. But what you're doing with ENERGYbits is you're saying, well, let's look at the specific nutrients present in these very high density or high nutrient density plants. And let's use those almost medically.
Right.
And it's an important point. So if you're a carnivore, you should be crusting your steak the way I do with the right type of herbs, the low oxalate herbs, and there are some. And you, I believe, ought to be taking some spirulina and some chlorella. And yes, I actually, if you go downstairs, you'll see ENERGYbits on my counter because that's what I take.
Yeah.
So there you go. And of course, everyone wants a discount. ENERGYbits.com. Use code BEYOND because that's the name of the Beyond Biohacking Conference now. So you get 20% off. ENERGYbits.com, code BEYOND, 20% off. Catherine, you're a genius, and I think you're accelerating, not slowing down.
I'm just sharing what I've learned over 15 years so everybody else doesn't have to spend 15 years. The information is there. The science is there. Our bodies need support, but you need the recipe of how to do that. And I love algae because it has all of the ingredients that the recipe your body needs so we can all live well and long and enjoy the ride. And I'm an example of it. Today's, I'm entering my 70th year. I just want everybody to feel as great as I do. So thank you, Dave, for giving me a celebratory interview.
You're welcome. You're a testament. Ultimately, if someone comes in and says, I have this great weight loss product and they weigh 300 pounds like I did, maybe the product needs improvement. You're a living testimony to ENERGYbits, and I appreciate you.
Testament to biohacking. So there you go.
I appreciate you coming in and sharing this knowledge because there's stuff that I've never talked about in 1,300 episodes that we covered today. And that's impressive. So thank you.
Oh, thank you.
See you next time on the Human Upgrade Podcast.